Welcome to CIRA's annual general meeting. My name is Jill Kowalchuk, and I'm the chair of CIRA's board of directors. I'm joining you today with the other presenters from LUMI in Toronto. With me on stage is CIRA's president and CEO, Byron Holland, and CIRA's corporate secretary, Bridget LeBlanc-Lapointe. CIRA would like to respectfully acknowledge that these proceedings are taking place on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples. CIRA honors all First Nations, Inuit, and Métis peoples and their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We'd like to thank you, our members, for joining us for CIRA's virtual AGM. Supporting Canadian communities and residents is important to us. As a result, CIRA is donating $10 to the United Way Canada for each person who attends. Today's event will be conducted in English with simultaneous interpretation in French. If you'd like to switch to French, just click on the interpretation button in the broadcast window. We're going to start off our meeting with brief updates on CIRA's activities and insights on how CIRA continues to build a trusted internet for Canadians. This will be followed by a 15-minute general question period and a quick testing poll, and then our formal annual general meeting. The formal AGM will be consistent with the notice shared with members. This will include highlights from CIRA's audited financials for the last year, the approval of CIRA's auditor, and finally, bylaw amendments, all with member question and comment periods. Members received reminder emails yesterday and earlier today with links to materials posted on the website. I encourage you to review these materials if you haven't already. There is a link to the materials in the platform under the Home tab. Before we dive in, I'd like to cover off some additional housekeeping items. There will be opportunities at certain points throughout the meeting to ask questions, make comments, or move or second a motion. This can all be done by simply clicking on the raise hand button in the platform. Members will be able to speak once I call upon you. Please keep your questions and comments concise so we can hear from as many members as possible. You may need to allow permission to use your microphone from your web browser. Please ensure you have the correct microphone and speakers connected so that you can be heard and hear the meeting. You will also be asked to vote during the AGM. When a vote is called, a poll will appear on your screen that includes the question or motion and voting options. Simply click on your selection and your vote will automatically be registered. We will conduct a quick test vote before formally kicking off the AGM to ensure everybody is prepared. With that, I'll pass it off to Bridget to talk a bit more about our AGM and governance more generally.
Thanks so much, Jill. We thought it may be helpful to take a step back because some of the terms and procedures in today's meeting may seem very legal and formalistic. I will share why that is and review some common terms and governance principles so we all participate in the meeting with a common understanding. You'll hear me mention the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act, which I'll call the Act. That is the main corporate law that governs CIRA. As the chair, Jill's role is to preserve and maintain order and to do all things necessary for the proper conduct of the meeting. That means making sure we get through the formal items of business, ensuring as many members as possible get a chance to participate, staying on topic, and keeping things respectful. As a reminder about how governance works, CIRA's Board of Directors is responsible for overseeing the organization's activities unless the law or CIRA's articles say otherwise. This means that absent specified fundamental changes or specified member approvals, like the appointment of the auditors, members don't get involved in CIRA's operational matters. Instead, members participate in CIRA's governance and affairs by electing directors to carry out those responsibilities. CIRA's directors and officers must act honestly and in good faith with a view to the best interests of the corporation, and they must exercise the care, diligence, and skill that a reasonably prudent person would exercise in comparable circumstances. When a majority of members vote a certain way, that decision applies to everyone, even those who voted differently. You'll notice that some parts of the meeting have time limits. This helps make sure as many members as possible can participate and that we're respectful of everyone's time. There will also be specific times set aside for questions and comments. During those periods, please keep your questions focused on the topic being discussed. If you have broader questions about CIRA, there will be a general Q&A session after the corporate presentations. During the question period relating to the financial statements, members can ask questions about CIRA's financial statements for the year ended March 31st, 2025. Under the Act, CIRA must place before its members the annual audited financial statements and the auditor's report thereon. A lot goes into this. CIRA's management prepares the financial statements, which are then extensively reviewed and ultimately recommended by the FAIR Committee to the board for approval. In its report, the auditor confirms that the financial statements present fairly, in all material respects, CIRA's financial position as of the fiscal year end and the results of its operations and its cash flows for the year then ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. Accordingly, members don't vote to approve the financial statements. That's the board's job. During the question and comment periods relating to the reappointment of the auditor, as in past years, Bride and McMaster, partner with Welsh LLP, will be available to answer questions relating to Welsh's duties as auditor. On that topic, there is no requirement under the Act for CIRA or its auditors to respond to questions from members submitted before the AGM. So if you have questions about the financial statements, you can raise them during that item of business. And if you have questions for Welsh relating to their duties as auditor, you can raise them during the item of business dealing with the reappointment of the auditor. CIRA takes good corporate governance very seriously, and we're grateful to members for their continued participation in the AGM and in director elections. Back to you, Jill.
Thanks, Bridget. As this is my last AGM as board chair, I want to take the opportunity to look back over the last 8 years in which I've had the pleasure of being involved with CIRA through the ideation, creation, and execution of the previous strategic plan. When the organization first considered the fiscal year 21 to 25 strategic plan nearly 7 years ago, the world and CIRA were very different places. Growth for .ca was slowing, diversified services revenue was only just beginning to make an impact on the organization, and internet policy was still a relatively niche area of focus. We had yet to go through a global pandemic, artificial intelligence was mostly confined to science fiction, and geopolitical order was relatively stable. A good strategic plan is ambitious, flexible, and forward-looking enough that it can accommodate for changes in the landscape. However, it is hard to overstate just how transformative the last few years have been. Despite all the change the world has experienced, CIRA finished FY 21 to 25 strategic plan in good shape, having reached or exceeded its targets. At the end of the most recent fiscal year, there were 3.4 million .ca domains under management, representing a year-over-year growth rate of almost 1%, outpacing the global CCTLD average of 0.3%. While the trend in global CCTLD growth has been slowing, the end of fiscal year 25 saw a market increase in registration, which can partially be attributed to the rising Buy Canadian sentiment. The trend has continued into fiscal year 26, and CIRA is doing all it can to help Canadian businesses and individuals represent Canada online. The cybersecurity team hit a significant milestone with its successful trial of its most recent product, CIRA XDR, to a group of beta customers. The trial was well received and led to the launch of the CIRA XDR earlier this year. CIRA XDR is a significant step forward for the organization's portfolio, filling a critical role in the cybersecurity stack that will add value for customers and help provide another layer of protection for Canada's institutions, infrastructure, and businesses. CIRA's cybersecurity solutions now protect nearly 7.5 million users across hospitals, schools, universities, and businesses in Canada. We have blocked more than 80 million malicious queries per month in the last year. This last year also saw the evolution of the CIRA SIDN partnership with the launch of a new brand, Hello Registry. The brand was unveiled at ICANN 81 in Istanbul, and while I didn't have the pleasure of attending in person, I heard about the energy and excitement from colleagues and friends in attendance, and the ripple effect for the Hello Registry platform was felt at home. Significant progress was also made towards migrating .nl onto the platform, which will represent a key milestone in the partnership with our Dutch counterparts, once completed later this year. While CIRA has been a leader in the internet governance ecosystem for years, We took a significant step forward with the launch of a Technical Community Coalition for Multi-Stakeholderism, TCCM. This is a coalition of technical operators from across the globe advocating for an evolved and strengthened multi-stakeholder approach to internet governance to keep the internet open, free, global, secure, resilient, and interoperable for all. The group has surpassed 40 operators since its inception and is playing a unique role in the ongoing United Nations dialogue around the future of internet governance. While CIRA's accomplishments are significant, I'm equally proud of the work we have done as a board to continuously improve the way we work together. In my 4 years as chair, I've seen the board evolve in the way we collaborate, debate, and disagree. Much as CIRA was founded on a multi-stakeholder organization, the board itself was built on this model, with a variety of perspectives and backgrounds. A diversity of opinions is important on a board, and given the rapidly changing nature of the landscape CIRA is operating in, it is also essential to good decision-making. We have made some complex decisions as CIRA navigates the changing internet world, and I'm grateful to all my colleagues for the candid, respectful, and open conversations we have had. CIRA's new strategic plan, which will lead the organization into 2028, is already underway. It was developed through a nimble and agile process which included consultations with members, the board, staff, government representative, and industry leaders in keeping with the multi-stakeholder model. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank you, our members, directly. Your participation, feedback, and advice are essential to CIRA's mission. In the coming year, we are redoubling our efforts to engage with members and ensure your voices are heard. With our recent report to members, we have launched a new forum that invites you to provide feedback to the board. We want to hear your questions and suggestions on how to make membership more valuable and help CIRA achieve its mission. This forum will remain open all year long, and though we cannot act on every request, we will ensure every submission is read and that the board has visibility on all feedback. On behalf of the board, I would like to thank CIRA staff and management for their efforts and dedication this past year. In particular, I would like to thank Byron Holland, CIRA's president and CEO, who has provided invaluable feedback and support during my tenure on the board, and most recently as the chair. Finally, as I complete my term as chair and enter into my final year on the board, I'd like to thank my fellow board members, those who are currently on the board, and those I have had the pleasure of serving with over the years. Being a part of this organization has been an incredible experience. I look forward to continuing to work with this amazing team in the board and management for one more year, as we help to build a trusted internet for Canadians.
Thanks, Jill. I'd like to thank you all for being with us today at our annual general meeting. CIRA was founded on the principles of multi-stakeholder engagement, and your participation is essential to upholding that commitment. This year, we are at a unique point in CIRA's journey, as we've just completed our previous 5-year strategic plan and are in the earliest stages of embarking upon our new 3-year strategic plan that will lead us out into 2028. As such, it's worth reflecting on how far we've come over the last 5 years. In fact, over the last 5 years, CIRA has significantly exceeded the registration targets that we set for ourselves, surpassing 3.4 million domain names and outpacing all of our CCTLD peers in growth. We launched CIRA's Canadian Shield, a free enterprise-grade recursive DNS service that now protects over 3 million users. We just celebrated 10 years of our Net Good Grants program, funding 245 projects and distributing over $14 million. And we migrated .ca onto our homegrown Hello Registry platform, which now underpins our partnership with our Dutch counterpart, SIDN. I'd like to go a little bit deeper into our partnership with SIDN because I think it is a great example of how far we have come and how the strategy that we laid out years ago is now paying dividends. With the domain name industry maturing and growth getting harder and harder to come by, we are now in a position to ensure not only continued relevance in our industry, but also to protect .ca against stagnation by ensuring that we always have a leading edge platform to run it on and sufficient revenues to keep .ca safe and secure. CIRA's in-house registry platform didn't become the centerpiece of an industry-changing partnership by accident. It was the result of years of development, ensuring we had best technology, top talent, and a global DNS footprint that led one of the world's top CCTLDs, .nl, to want to partner with us. Through this partnership, we now have almost double the development capacity that we did on our own. We have support that spans multiple time zones across both sides of the Atlantic, and a growing community of like-minded TLDs who share common values, all using one registry platform. And it's a growing community. It's a growing community that will help secure the future of .ca and put us in a position to continue our mission to help build a trusted internet for Canadians. Given what we knew back in 2019 and how much change and uncertainty we have gone through since, our success in the previous strategic plan, I think, is a testament to our team, our technology, the board, and the plans that we set in motion back then. Our new strategic plan also has some pretty ambitious goals. We want to get .ca into the hands of more Canadians as they seek to communicate, to educate, and to help drive this country's economy. We want to get more users onto the protected tier of CIRA's Canadian Shield to help them stay safe online. We want to expand our cybersecurity offerings to ensure organizations have a trusted Canadian partner that they can rely on. And we want to continue to expand our partnership with SIDN to build a strong, vibrant community of like-minded TLDs on the Hello Registry platform. However, just as world events provided both opportunities and obstacles to our previous strategic plan, we enter this new strategic cycle amid probably the most volatile environment of any of our lifetimes. The geopolitical order that has underpinned our lives for more than 80 years is unwinding, and a new reality is forming that throws out many of the core assumptions that have governed our lives, our governments, and our economies. And most pressing among these changes in Canada's economic and trading relationship with the world. We have always been a nation of traders. We are small in number, but we boast a tremendous amount of resources, innovation, and insight that we can share with the world. As Canada seeks to transform its economy to adjust to whatever this new normal is going to be, it is inevitable that there will both be challenges and opportunities that will emerge. CIRA is already seeing some of that opportunity in .ca registrations, as Canadians are reacting to the country's trade uncertainty by embracing Canada's domain, .ca. However, of course, this opportunity could easily become a risk if economic conditions erode and businesses have difficulty adjusting to our new trading relationships with our largest partners in the rest of the world. Another way that our world is changing is in the scope and sophistication of cyber threats. Threat actors across the board are more advanced. Nation states barely hide their offensive cyber activity anymore. And AI is enabling fast scaling while blurring the lines between what is and what isn't human. And of course, cybercrime in general certainly isn't slowing down. It is with this new cybersecurity landscape in mind that we launched CIRA XDR, or Endpoint Protection, in early fiscal 26, which has received very positive early customer feedback. Though our solution fills an important need, it did arrive at a time of shrinking budgets in institutional environments and an overall slowing economy. We're actively seeking alternatives to our initial go-to-market strategy that lean into the current landscape, as we know that cyber threats will only continue to grow no matter the economic conditions. As I mentioned earlier, AI is already having an impact on our industry, as it is supercharging both the best and the worst of the internet. It's undeniable, of course, that this technology will be transformational in the years to come, as it upends much of what we thought was possible about technology. And unfortunately, AI has made cyber threats more effective than ever, allowed misinformation to be produced and spread at scale, and upended many of the checks and balances of the internet. Our focus at CIRA will be to harness this technology to protect and help build trust on the internet so that the greatest knowledge tool in human history continues overall to be a force for good. In this time of rapid change, it's important to recognize the constraints that have helped ground us, guide us, and also bring us together. For the past 10 years, that has been the CIRA office at 979 Bank Street in Ottawa. Some of you may know that we recently moved to a different office in a different neighborhood in Ottawa, thus turning the page on a chapter in our history. We're certainly pleased with our new larger space, which will allow us to continue to grow, but we also have had, of course, many fond memories of the place that brought us together for the past decade. Another constant that has helped guide CIRA is the leadership and support of our board chair, Jill Kowalchuk. Jill, as she mentioned, is presiding over her last AGM as chair. And I would like to thank her for 4 years of service as our board chair and more than 10 years helping guide CIRA's governance in various capacities. Jill has been with the organization through thick and thin, through COVID, the remote work pivot, new services, new partnerships, and much, much more. She's seen a lot of change in the board itself, in our strategies, and certainly in our environment, and has provided invaluable guidance and support the entire time, both to the organization and certainly as well to me. Thank you, Jill. To close, I want to come back to the uncertainty in the world around us. There's no doubt it can be troubling, even alarming. But at CIRA, we have always positioned ourselves to adapt to change and to find possibility within uncertainty. We were able to navigate challenges like COVID because we put in place the people, the strategy, the technology, the infrastructure to do great things. And as we navigate uncertain times again, we will continue to look for opportunities to advance our mission, to help build a trusted internet for Canadians. CIRA is in a good position moving forward, and I have always believed, and have often expressed this to my team, that as an organization, we have a responsibility to do what we can when the times call for it. Those who can, should. CIRA has answered that call many times, whether it's through our Net Good Grants program or Canadian Shield. When the opportunity presents itself, CIRA will always look to leverage our position as a leader in our industry and in our country to do what we can to help. Thank you.
Thank you, Byron. Before we get started with our 15-minute general question period, and I see we have a couple of hands up in the queue already, I do want to take a couple of minutes and briefly talk about our AGM structure. There are different ways to run the annual general meeting of a corporation, whether it be nonprofit or for-profit. Since I've been on the board, we've tried out a few different options. If you're interested in seeing some of those, you can see more than 10 years of our AGM videos archived online. Each year, we read the responses from the AGM survey and gather information from different members. A recent conversation with a member has continued my thinking on how should we approach things in the future. What should our next evolution look like? In recent years, we've typically leaned towards the approach of making the formal AGM to only deal with the corporate business. The AGM has a lot of formality required to meet the rules of order. And while I understand this is necessary, on a personal level, it doesn't really fit my typically less formal style. In this role, I have had to read the Nathan Goldfarb's Rules of Orders, follow the carefully crafted script to ensure we complete the statutory requirements and keep an orderly meeting. Every year, we discuss and debate the time period for each item and where everything should go. Recently, we added a general Q&A period, which we're about to get into, before we dive into the formal AGM business to hear from the members. While this is limited to 15 minutes to ensure we get through the formal business in a reasonable time frame, I'm open to adding additional time following the close of the formal portion of the AGM for additional questions if needed. CIRA's board and management are eager to explore how we can continue to engage with members. We added an election candidate meet and greet last week. We have a member event in Toronto next week, and we're eager to hear from members about new ideas on how we can engage. Please complete our post-AGM survey and use our online form. With that, I'd like to start our Q&A period. Members are invited to raise their hand for any questions. I'm joined both virtually and in the room by CIRA's executive team, who are available to respond during this general Q&A period. To allow for as many questions as possible, we ask members to limit themselves to one question and use 30 seconds to ask the question. We ask that responses be kept to under 2 minutes. I've asked Bridget to help keep us on time prior to the official business portion of the AGM. As I call on each member, I would ask that you repeat your name and where you are joining from. I apologize in advance if I pronounce your name wrong. Pronunciation of names isn't my strong suit at the best of times, and it's a little nerve-wracking being on stage and managing all aspects of the AGM. First up is Marita Mole. Marita, you have the floor if you'd like to unmute.
Hello. Thank you for the floor, Jill. Hello.
Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead,
Okay.
Marita.
Okay, I got an echo on my side, but that's fine. It's a comment. I was on the board in 2018 when the early discussions came around about that have now ended up in the Hello Registry, and I just wanted to congratulate everyone in 10 years of discussions that ended up in something that looks so positive for CIRA and the future, and eventually probably more money into the next program. So congratulations to all the people who went through the difficult discussions that made that happen. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Marita. Appreciate it. Okay, next up we have Carrie Robson. Carrie, the floor is yours. I think you're still muted, Carrie. There you go. Try now. We can't hear you. If you want to just check which mic you have selected, sometimes the computer doesn't quite pick the right one. Still can't hear you. I'm going to go to the next question. But if you want to keep your hand up, I'll come back to you after I go to the next person in the line, or you can re-put your hand up. Next up, we have Michael O'Neill. Michael, the floor is yours. Hi, Michael. I think we can hear you.
Hi, thank you.
Go ahead.
I'd like to ask you about the creation of Holdco and Fury and the transfer of an asset where, quote, all development costs had previously been expensed by CIRA, end quote, to a third party. Through Holdco, CIRA owns 50% of Fury Canada. But can you please list the other Fury shareholders? As a voting member of the entity that paid for the IP at the core of Fury, I would like to know which other entities benefited from the transfer of the CIRA registration platform to Fury.
Okay, thanks for the question. I'll pass it off to Byron, and Byron, feel free to bring in any other members of the team.
Sure. Well, I'll take a stab at answering the question to begin with. So, Fury Holdco, to answer your specific question, which you articulated at the end, Fury Holdco is a holdco that strictly holds the intellectual property associated with the registry platform technology itself. It's not an operating entity. It's strictly to hold the intellectual property. And CIRA effectively owns 50% of that. And our partner, SIDN, the operator of the Dutch CCTLD, is the other 50% owner. And the way that that worked is we put the intellectual property associated with the Fury registry platform into that holdco, and the Dutch registry operator paid to become a partner in that enterprise. And that's, as I mentioned in my opening comments, that's now where we are a partnership with the Dutch registry operator, and we will continue together to develop the technology and the platform itself to serve our needs first and foremost for .ca.
Thanks, Byron. I will note we have gotten some feedback that there's feedback on the audio when we go to remote questions. Apologies on that. We are working on it on our end, so hopefully we will have it resolved. Thanks to all who reported it. Okay, next up we have James Epp. James, the floor is yours.
Hello, I'm checking in. Okay.
Yep, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. James F. joining from Brandon, Manitoba. Given the candidate meet and greet was last Thursday and the official voting period is beginning in conjunction with this AGM, when will the video recording and transcript of that meet and greet be published to CIRA's social channels and websites for voters to review and help make their decisions?
Great question. I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to have the people in the room nod. I believe it's already posted. I'm getting lots of nods. So I believe it is already posted. So if you hit the CIRA website, you should be able to find it. If you're not able to, then raise your hand again, and I will get somebody to chat me where you can find it on the, oh, I've already got it. Okay, so CIRA.ca/election should have it. And I feel like the echo was fixed on the back end. Okay. Any additional questions? James, go ahead. Nope.
I assume second round is okay.
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
My question entails kind of a follow-up of one of the previous questions. With respect to the Fury transfer, what was the board's motions, if any, when it came to the decision to effectively move the value of that intellectual property into the holding company? Was there any debate brought forward within the board to potentially bring this to members and other stakeholders to get a yay or nay? Can you just speak more to the decision making? Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Great question. I'm going to ask a colleague, Graham Bunton, who is on the board. Graham brings a breadth of expertise from the domain name industry, and so I feel that he can help give a little bit more on the background on it from that board perspective and speak to it that way. Graham?
Thanks, Jill. So I'm Graham Bunton. I've been a member of the board for 2 years, so I'm in my first term. And I'm going to tell a little bit of a story before I answer your question. So when I was elected, I was immediately asked to get up to speed as quickly as I could on the proposal with SIDN. And as Jill mentioned, for context, I would consider myself a domain name industry professional. I bring to the CIRA board years of experience at domain registrars and registries and within the DNS. Experience that I think exists with really only a handful of Canadians. And that experience gives me, I think, a really unique viewpoint into this proposal. So at a high level, it was immediately apparent to me that as a concept, taking these two well-respected, well-run, influential registries and combining their power to improve the registry platform and grow registry platform opportunities was an obviously positive choice. So then how does that decision get made by the board? Well, first there was a special committee formed to review the proposal and work on the proposal as it was being built. Then that work went to what's called the FAIR Committee, the Finance Committee, that then reviewed that process. And then ultimately it went to the entire board for vote and approval. The structure of the arrangement is really the output of experts on corporate partnerships, and from my perspective was designed with a couple pieces in mind. One, to ensure the continued safe and secure operation of .ca, and then two, to enable the exciting opportunities that the partnership provides. And to editorialize slightly, I think the opportunity to work together with SIDN, as I see it, really strengthens CIRA's technology and position in the ecosystem and generates growth for .ca and the CA community. I hope that helps.
Thanks, Graham. Thanks, Graham. Appreciate it. Okay, we have a follow-up question from Michael O'Neill. Michael, the floor is yours.
Thanks so much. And thank you, Byron, for your previous answer. And Graham, thank you for the additional explanation. I did, in going through the explanation around Fury and Holdco, I saw that the payment that Byron referenced for the intellectual property took the form of a note from Fury to CIRA in the amount of $9.94 million, and that Holdco is a co-owner of Fury. If and when that note is called, is SIDN obligated to pay the entire $9.94 million? Does half of that come from Holdco and thus from CIRA paying itself, or is there some other financial arrangement in place in the eventuality that that note translates into actual payment to CIRA in exchange for the intellectual property?
Thanks, Michael.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. I will note maybe in the future, 30 seconds is not quite enough to get our questions on, so we'll work on adjusting that in the future. I've been a little lenient. I think they're really great questions. Byron, would you like to answer this question now? It does specifically relate to the financials. We do have some time now, so I'm comfortable if you ask it now, or would you like us to defer it to the financials?
Well, I'll take a high-level stab at it right now, and then, of course, we will have time in the AGM with the auditor and Jane, our head of finance, to dig in a little deeper if you want. But from a high-level perspective, you know, the valuation of the intellectual property was effectively the $9.5 million. And SIDN, our partner, paid half of that total value to buy into the partnership on a 50-50 basis. And they paid that to CIRA in cash. So that transaction has taken place, and that fundamentally is the essence of it. A valuation of $9.5 million, SIDN buys in for 50%, and that payment was already made to CIRA. And that effectively is how the transaction is structured.
Great. Thanks, Byron. And we're happy to take additional questions on that during the financial portion of the AGM as well. Are there any additional questions? I've got James up again. James, the floor is yours.
They say bad things come in threes. The last question I'll raise is, with the context that CIRA says that they're working towards openness with members, transparency with members, on August 26, I did report a potential error in one of the agenda attachments that was made available to members ahead of the AGM. Those technical errors in a PDF file have still not been corrected, and I never heard back from anyone at CIRA. Is this meeting the standard that CIRA wants to place upon themselves? Thank you.
Thanks, James. Great question. So I think in the, I know one of the errors based on the conversation was a typo related to the bylaws and the numbering on the bylaws. We have included and corrected that in today, so when it comes time for that motion, we will correct it. Apologies that you didn't hear back from us specifically on that. We do spend quite a bit of time with input related to that and on our bylaws, getting legal opinion and expert opinion so that when we make sure the changes are in there, they're good. So that part is included in today's portion. Maybe Bridget, I'll ask you. I don't think we change what is already sent out because that's our official notice. And so we need to, I believe, based on the formality of the rules, keep that online, but then we will correct it on the fly, so to speak. Bridget, anything to add?
Nope, that's correct, Jill.
Okay. Thank you for raising that for us. It was a definite oversight on the numbering part for sure.
Point of personal privilege.
We're not in the AGM part, but go ahead, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Just to clarify, it was actually not to do with the typo within the bylaw amendments that you referred to.
Okay.
I'm specifically referring to the fiscal year 25 report to members PDF file. I can provide you with more information or anyone at CIRA with information later on. I just wanted to make that clarification. No further response is required right now.
My apologies, I misunderstood. Yeah, if you could provide that input to us, that would be great. Like, could somebody send me what email we want it to go to so it doesn't get lost in the shuffle? Can't hear you. You either got to info@cira.ca. If you could send that along to us, James, we'd really appreciate it. We do strive to make sure that that information is correct, and so if there was something that was incorrect, we'll want to work to make sure it's right. Thanks for bringing that to our attention. Okay, I have Ian Allen. Ian, the floor is yours.
Hi. In order to join this Zoom call, I had to read the terms and conditions for Zoom and the privacy policy. I counted them 2,047 lines, 22,325 words. CIRA, when I first got a domain, required me to read 80 pages of legalese. A com was about 3 pages. Has CIRA got anybody in charge of making it easier, simpler, shorter to do anything with CIRA?
Thanks for the question. I think on the Zoom piece related to this, the platform that we're using this year is something we have tried a few different options in the past. And this one, in fact, a lot of the feedback we got from the AGMs was, we want you to use Zoom. Unfortunately, as you've noted, you do have to read and accept those terms of reference with some of these online platforms, which is not always the most pleasant. As for the terms and conditions related to accepting and getting your domain, I can take that back as something that we can look at in the coming year. This has evolved. I find with all of these things, they evolve year over year. And every year you get more and more input, you get more and more pieces added to it. So it is certainly not our intent to make things harder for you to work with CIRA. We'll do our best to strike that right balance between the legal stuff we have to do. You'll see a lot of that once we move into the formal part of the AGM, with making it something that works inside the context of the less formal way of working. Thanks for the feedback. Okay. So we are just a little bit over the sort of 15 minutes. What I'm going to ask is, I'll give the floor to Carrie Robson, because I see they're back on, and I know we had some technical challenges there. Marita, I do see you have another question. What I'll do is, if you're able to stick around, we'll go to the formal, after Carrie, we'll go to the formal part of the AGM. Once that's done, I'll come back and we can give you some more time to ask that question, if that works. So Carrie, are you able to unmute and give it a try? Hopefully we fixed.
Okay, I'm unmuted. All I wanted to say is that this whole meeting, there was no audio with a Brave browser. I have just switched over to Edge, so fortunately I'll be able to be on the rest of the meeting.
Okay, sorry about that. I'm glad we got it worked out. Technology can be finicky. Okay, so with that, Geez, 1 second. Okay, thank you for everyone's engagement. We'll close the general question period now. I did work to adjust some of the minutes and guidelines we had on the time to try and hear from everybody. As noted, I'm happy to add some additional time once we get through the formality of the AGM, if people would like to stick around and ask some more questions. So before we proceed with the AGM, I'd like to ensure that everybody knows how to vote before the official meeting begins. As noted, we've already had a few technical hiccups. Our apologies on that. I'm going to ask Lumi operators to pose our test question, asking you if this is your first CIRA AGM. Can you please vote now? A team member will keep time for 1 minute, so we have enough time to make sure members can register their votes. While we're waiting for the votes to register, I'll ask the next presenters to join me on stage. One thing I will note that you can see in the application is there is no submit button, so you can record your vote while the entire minute for voting is up. If you want to change your vote, you can. Whatever vote you have selected at the end of the time period, you can see the countdown on screen is can't see the time on screen, sorry, I can see the timeline. Whatever is up at the end of the minute is what will get recorded. There's about 10 seconds left, so please finalize recording your motion. Oh, cool. Okay. Bridget. Okay, the poll is closed. We're just waiting for the results to get sent up to us here on screen. Apologies for the awkward silence.
The results are in. So 39 members are joining us for the first time. Welcome.
Wow, we have a number of new faces joining us today. We welcome and thank you all. As we move into the formal AGM portion of the meeting, I'd like to take a few minutes to introduce you to my board colleagues. While you will all be listening to me for the majority of today's proceedings, I'm joined by a diverse and incredibly qualified set of individuals who make up CIRA's board. The 12 members you see on the screen bring a diverse set of skills and experience, such as domain industries, cybersecurity, financial, risk, and legal. They come from a wide range of industries, including corporate, tech, startups, nonprofits, and consulting fields. We are now joined by a few more faces on stage. Colleen Arnold, Board Director and Chair of the Finance, Audit, Investment, and Risk Management Committee. Colleen is a Chartered Professional Accountant and is a member in good standing of the Chartered Professional Accountants of Nova Scotia. Jane Fulford, CIRA's Chief Operating Officer, who is also a CPA and a member in good standing of the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. Bryden McMaster, who is joining us virtually as he has in past AGMs. Bryden is a partner with Welch LLP, CIRA's auditor. Bryden is also a CPA and a member in good standing of the Chartered Professional Accountants of Ontario. With that, we will move into the formal AGM portion of the meeting. Based on feedback from previous AGMs, our current schedule is for a meeting of approximately an hour, depending on questions. We will now proceed with the CIRA 2025 Annual General Meeting. I now call to order the Annual General Meeting. In accordance with our bylaws, Bridget LeBlanc-Lapointe will act as secretary and I will act as chair. Bridget, how many members are present?
A quorum of 100 members is needed, and there are 179 members present.
With that, I declare the meeting duly constituted, and we will now proceed with the business at hand. The notice of meeting was posted on CIRA's AGM website on August 21st, 2025. I propose to dispense with the reading of the notice, and I direct that a copy of the notice be kept by the secretary with records of this meeting. Unless there are any objections in the next 30 seconds, we will proceed with the agenda as distributed. James Epp, your hand is raised. You have the floor.
Chair, I would like to move a motion if that is allowed.
Yes, it is. Go ahead.
For the record, again, this is James Epp speaking from Brandon, Manitoba, CIRA member. My motion is, I move that the agenda be amended by adding following item 8 bylaw amendments and before item 9, closing the meeting, a general question period for members of up to 1 hour in duration, and further, that during this question period, questions shall be limited to 1 minute each, responses limited to 5 minutes, with 1 follow-up permitted, and further, that the chair shall prioritize questions relating to the agenda items, and further, that no debate shall occur, and further, that a summary of questions and answers from this period be recorded in the minutes.
Okay, so that's a fulsome motion. You're gonna have to, hopefully everyone will bear with us a little bit. We need to make sure we get all of the components that we want, that you want in the motion. So,
So James, may I ask you just to repeat the motion, please? And I'll type it and then we can work together to make sure we get it correct.
Would it help? I'm happy to do that for you. Would it help if an email address were provided and I could forward that along?
I think just go ahead and state it and we'll do this together.
I move that the agenda be amended by adding following item 8 bylaw amendments and before item 9, closing the meeting, a general question period for members of up to 1 hour in duration, and
Lumi?
further.
Oh, thank you. Sorry, James. We just needed you to pause for a minute so Bridget could catch up. Lumi turned her microphones off, so I was trying the hand signal. If we could just hold. Bridget, where'd you get to?
Yeah, so let's just do this piecemeal, James. Thanks for bearing with me. So be it resolved that the agenda be amended by adding following item 8. And then if
Bylaw
you,
amendments.
The bylaw amendment.
yep,
And before item 9, also known as closing the meeting,
Hold on
A
one
general
second. Hold
question
on one
period.
second. Hold on.
so I'm just going to truncate that by saying following item 8 and before item 9.
taken as a friendly.
Thank you.
Continuing, a general question period for members of up to 1 hour in duration.
One moment. A general question period for members for up to 1 hour in duration.
Correct. Continuing, and further, that during this question period, questions shall be limited to 1 minute each, responses limited to 5 minutes,
One moment, please. Thank you. And further, that during this question period, questions shall be limited to 1 minute each, responses limited to 5 minutes each.
correct. Continuing, with 1 follow-up permitted, and further, that the chair shall prioritize agenda-related questions.
Responses limited to 5 minutes each with 1 follow-up permitted, and further that the chair shall prioritize agenda-related questions. Is that correct?
Correct. Continuing. And further, that no debate shall occur.
And further that the
And-
debate shall occur?
No debate shall.
That no debate, thank you.
I think it was no.
I will confirm it was no debate.
Thank you.
Continuing. And further, that a summary of questions and answers from this period be recorded in the minutes.
And further that no debate shall occur, and further that a summary of questions and answers from this period be reported in the minutes.
Minor error there with recorded versus reported.
recorded in the minutes.
All sounds correct. Please read back full motion.
Thank you. Be it resolved that the agenda be amended by adding following item 8 and before item 9, a general question period for members for up to 1 hour in duration, and further that during this question period, questions shall be limited to 1 minute each, responses limited to 5 minutes each, with 1 follow-up permitted, and further that the chair shall prioritize agenda-related questions, and further that no debate shall occur, and further that a summary of questions and answers from this period be recorded in the minutes.
That is faithful to my full motion. I request a seconder.
Okay, thanks so much. So here's what we're going to have to do, just because we work on doing this in both English and French. I'll take over for a little bit. So we're going to present the motion to add an additional period to the agenda as we've worked through. As a reminder to everyone, we're no longer dealing with the substance of the main motion regarding the agenda, but only the motion to add the Q&A period. We're going to follow the standard process we would have for a motion to ensure we observe the rules of the order for this meeting. The presenter, James, will be recorded as moving the motion. If the motion is seconded, we will then provide 2 minutes for James to present their motion. CIRA will have 2 minutes for a response. We will then proceed with a question and comment period on the motion. Once all of those steps are complete, we'll then proceed to vote on the motion. That being said, we might have to pause for a minute. Given the length of the motion, we need to translate it into French. So if everyone can just bear with us.
So just as a reminder, we're just translating the motion, and I'm going to verify that now, and then we can proceed.
Are we good? Okay. All right. So James Epp is recorded having moved the motion to amend the agenda. Will a member please second the motion by raising your hand?
Marita Mall is recorded as having seconded the motion.
Thank you, Bridget. James, you now have the floor for 2 minutes to present the motion to amend the agenda.
Thank you. Am I audible?
Yes, you're good.
One point of information from the chair. Would this amendment that I've just put forward be able to be amended further by other members?
I'm gonna call a friend. Bridget?
So I have not seen any hands come up of anyone proposing any further amendments.
Sorry, just a clarification on my point of information. I phrased the motion with certain numbers in mind. Would other members potentially be able to submit amendments to my amendment? Or is this just a terminal amendment and it can't be amended further?
So there is the possibility of further amendments to your proposed motion. We have not seen any indication that anyone has an amendment to propose to your motion to amend the agenda.
Thank you. I'm ready to begin my comments.
Farmer, now you can go ahead with your comments.
Thank you. I appreciate the patience of everyone attending the AGM. I know it's a lengthy motion. The real cusp of this is that CIRA is a big institution. It has lots of members. Members probably have concerns or questions about things on the agenda. And the way that the AGM guide is phrased with 7 minutes limited to comments and questions both, to me personally, feels a little low. So I've come up with this motion basically saying, let's have 1 hour of a question period within the AGM with the questions and answers being recorded in the minutes so that it becomes part of our broader record, which would not happen in an informal question period outside of the AGM. Now, my decision of 1 hour in the motion and 1 minute per question and 5 minutes in up to 5 minutes for responses, those are numbers I pulled out. They may not be good numbers. So members are absolutely free, as the collective that we are, to defeat this motion if they desire. But if there's members out there who want to twiddle with the numbers from 1 hour to 30 minutes or 2 hours or whatever, any of the numbers for that matter, go for it. I'm not personally offended by that. I yield back my time, Chair. Thank you.
Jill, you now have 2 minutes to provide CIRA's response.
Thanks, Bridget. Thank you, James, for your motion and your thoughtful engagement in CIRA's governance. I appreciate you taking the time to connect with me yesterday. Your feedback gave me a lot to consider, and for the benefit of the broader membership, I want to reiterate some of the points that I considered related to your request to amend the agenda. As I already noted, each year we revisit the format of the agenda. We take into consideration the feedback from the survey, and we discuss and we debate, and I really encourage everybody to complete it. With that, I am also open in the future to adjusting the time limits for each of those parts. We picked it based on history and how we did some things, and they might not be perfect. In the pre-AGM question, I sort of extended some time accordingly to really make sure we heard from everybody accordingly, and I'm happy to continue to do that so long as we keep orderly and on time and respectful agenda going forward. As I noted, there's different ways to do your AGM of a corporation, whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit. We've typically leaned towards the approach of the formal AGM part just for the corporate business. We've added some Q&A before because I think it's really important, and happy to open it up after we close the formal portion of it today to hear from Marita and anyone else that you have it. You also requested the AGM be minuted. Our entire event today, including our corporate presence and Q&A, is posted online. Historically, our minutes include a hyperlink to the specific time in the video for the question period rather than a transcription. And that, at least right now, that's how we're continuing, but we can certainly revisit that in the future. With all of this in mind, I recommend the members vote against the current motion, but as James said, it's really up to the members. We want to hear from you. Oops, my time's up. Okay, stop. Okay. It's always awkward when you're both the speaker as well as the manager of the meeting. Okay, so now we open up the floor to questions related to the motion to add the Q&A period to the agenda. We have a total of 7 minutes allocated for the question period. Bridget will alert us when the time has been reached. Do any members have any specific questions related to the motion to amend the agenda? Please click the raise hand button. We've got a couple in here already. So this is questions. We will also have a time where you can give your opinion. So please at this point limit it to questions. Tahid Al-Hahi, the floor is yours. I see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
Is this better?
Yep, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay. Just a quick question about the motion in regards to the timing of the question period. In the motion, does it determine at which point in the meeting that it will be added? Because we do have we did have like a small question period before this. So is this like an additional question period at the end? Or are we lengthening the current question period? That I'm confused about.
No, great question. So yes, this is an additional question period that will be ended. So the previous question period we did wasn't in the formal part of the AGM, so this would be extending the formal portion of the AGM before we have the motion to adjourn or terminate the meeting. We would add this question and answer period. James, put your hand up if you don't feel I answered that one correctly, but I think we're on the same page for that one. Oh, you put your hand up. You didn't specify who the question was for, so.
Nope, that's totally okay. I just wanted to echo what the chair had just said. Thank you, Tahid, for the question. What Jill just said is faithful and representative of my motion.
Great, thanks, James. Next up is Marita. Marita, floor is yours.
Hi, thanks for that. Yes, we're still, okay. I supported this motion because what I liked about it was the fact that there's going to be some continuing record of the questions. I have to say, when I was doing some research, I went back to the last year's, and I don't know, it's not clear to me if the questions that were proposed this time are going to be recorded somehow. So I like the fact that it was going to be recorded and ready for next year's anybody who wants to see, because it's important that members see other members' questions.
Okay. Marita, do you have a question there? I think you got a bit of a statement. I'm happy to take that in the next part. Did you have a question?
Question is any of the previous, the original questions actually recorded somewhere so members can see it?
Okay, got it. Sorry about that. You did ask that.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, the entire video of the AGM, including all of the questions and we asked at the beginning, so my corporate presentation, Byron's presentation, and then the Q&A we had at the start, all of that is recorded and posted online. And we don't post the transcript. It can be quite a bit of work to get the transcript and then make sure everything is right, but you can run it through your favorite AI tool if you'd like a little bit of an option on that. Okay, so next up I have William Stratus. William?
Yes, hello to everybody, and Byron and the great team up there. My question is as follows. Will you commit to the spirit of this excellent motion and continue for the full hour as long as there are still relevant questions being posed, even if the quorum drops below the threshold? Because, as you know, as the time wears on, people can drop off.
Yep. Okay, William, I've
we'd like
heard your
to-
question. Sorry, I'm going to jump in just in the interest of time. So the answer is yes. Our bylaws clearly state that if we have quorum at the start of the meeting, quorum is I don't know what the right word is, assumed continued for the entire duration of the meeting until it ends. So the answer to your question is yes. Are there any other questions? Robert Hall. The floor is yours for a question.
Thank you. I would like to ask the proposer of the motion why he is trying to limit debate on questions.
Thanks, Rob.
Seems odd to me.
James?
Yes, thank you, Robert, for the question. In an ideal world, I would not want to limit debate, but this is just to keep the meeting orderly. And I've observed this in other public boards, very specifically in my own local area of Brandon, Manitoba, the city of Brandon, and the Brandon School Division, of which I have personal experience kind of engaging with in this kind of way. They don't allow debate. That's just sort of normal. You don't want to have a back and forth between the chair or anyone really representing the institution with the institution in the broader context and the person who's asking questions, because it just becomes non-productive very quickly. So it's a way for people to ask questions and get facts, but not to enter debate. There are better forums and better ways to have debate. I certainly encourage CIRA to engage with members and other stakeholders and figure out what is that best debate platform to be. But just in terms of making a Q&A within the AGM, I don't see that as particularly beneficial. I hope that addresses your concern, and I hope it addresses your question. It's the balance of what's ideal and what's practical. Thank you.
Thanks. Next question is from Tauhid Alahi. The floor is yours.
Hello, can you hear me again? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Just making sure. So my question is to the person who forwarded the motion. If I remember correctly, the motion included that the questions and answers will be written into the record. So I'd like to ask the person who forwarded the motion, how does he envision, or what was his intent, and how does he see the question and answer being written? Because as of right now, my understanding is that the question and answer period is not transcribed, and so is it like a transcription? Is it like a written Q&A? Like how is it done?
Yeah, thanks for the question. I can take this one. So our previous AGM minutes are posted online, and in fact, the ones for this last year's AGM would be part of the board package. So you can click the documents button at the bottom, and you can see. I'll walk you through it, how it works right now. So we keep our AGM minutes as light as possible. What we do is when it comes time to a question period in the AGM related to whether it's the motion to approve the auditors or the other thing that I can't remember, sorry. What we do in the minutes is we give an indication, a link to the video and an indication of the time in the video when that question period happens. So that's been our standard practice in the past.
Madam Chair, we have reached our time limit for the question period.
Okay, so in the interest of moving things along, I'm going to close. Apologies, Robert Hall. I see you have another question. Maybe you could turn it into a statement, because we're going to move to the next part of this. So in this period, we have about 7 minutes allocated for members to provide comments related to the motion at hand. So if anyone has a comment, you can raise your hand. You will have the floor. Please keep your comment to 1 minute or less. Carrie Robson, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I support the chair's recommendation to defeat the amendment. First of all, CIRA has many town halls which members can participate in and offer comments. I do remember past CIRA AGMs, which went on and on forever, and people left after 2.5 hours of this kind of free talking where a very few number of individuals tended to dominate. CIRA has real business to conclude at its AGM, and that's what it needs to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Carrie. Robert Hall, the floor is yours.
Sorry, I want to echo what Carrie said. The AGM is a legal process we have to go through every year. We're going through it. Let's concentrate on getting through that. The board is committed to answer all the questions you want. The board has been transparent. This is all being recorded. It'll all be published. Let's stop wasting time with motions like this. I'll be voting against this motion. So, like, I can't think of a more transparent organization than CIRA. So let's get through the legalese that we need to. Well, we're all here, and then let's answer the questions for everybody else transparently and honestly, and then CIRA will publish it all. It's all on the record. This is all being recorded. Everybody's question will be answered. So I support that. I do not support the motion.
Thank you, Robert. Gail McLeod.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can. Go ahead, Gail.
I feel like I'm reiterating a little bit, but there are certain legal requirements for an AGM. We have quorum. Let's get on with the legal stuff that we need to get done and use other forums to have discussions about whatever. The important thing about an AGM and my reason for being here is to support CIRA and getting done what needs to get done to get beyond just the legal requirement. And I'm finding this quite frustrating. And I would be one of those people who just eventually leaves.
Thank you, Gail. Okay, any new members have comments? I'm going to limit it to one comment per member. Tyler Trees. Tyler, the floor is yours.
Hi, yeah, I've just added a comment of support for the motion. I believe it's about transparency and communication to the members. The concerns about wasting time are good ones, but there's only something like 15 minutes allocated at the beginning or near the beginning of the meeting. So if everyone had a question and couldn't get to it, this period would allow for that at the end. And if someone wants to leave, it's determined that that's not a problem because the meeting can continue. So I would support this and any motions that have to do with communications that give better transparency about the operations. Thank you.
Thanks, Tyler. Bill Sanford, you have the floor.
Not in favor of the motion, and I'd like to call the question.
Okay. We could figure out how to manage that in the rules. I think you're pushing us to move along. I am just going to give one more minute to see if anyone else has any comments, because it's probably faster than us looking up what we need to do if we do that. Okay, so there are no more comments from new members in the queue. So we will now proceed to voting on the motion to add a Q&A period to the agenda, which reads, be it resolved that the agenda be amended by adding following item 8 and before item 9, a general question period for members for up to 1 hour in duration. And further, that during this question period, questions shall be limited to 1 minute each, responses to 5 minutes each with 1 follow-up permitted. And further, that the chair shall prioritize agenda-related questions, and further, that no debate shall occur. And further, that a summary of questions and answers from this period be recorded in the minutes. Please vote now. Five seconds left. Okay. Bear with us while we wait for the results to be pushed to us on stage.
There were 36 votes for, 97 votes against, and 7 abstentions.
The motion is defeated. We will now return to the motion dealing with the agenda of the meeting. We'll now proceed with tabling of the 2024 AGM minutes. Bill, your hand is up. You have the floor.
Either moving or seconding the motion to approve the minutes as presented.
You're a little early. Okay, hold on. A copy of the minutes of the 2024 annual general meeting was made available to all members through CIRA's AGM website on August 21st, 2025. Unless there are any objections in the next 30 seconds, we'll proceed with the 2024 annual general meeting minutes standing as approved. We will now move on to the summary of the financial statements for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025. I'm happy to introduce my colleague Colleen Arnold, Chair of CIRA's Finance, Audit, Investment, and Risk Management Committee, who will present the highlights of the auditor's report and the financial statements for the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025, following which we will provide the opportunities for members to ask questions related to the financial statements.
Good afternoon. My name is Colleen Arnold. As Jill shared, I am Chair of CIRA's Finance, Audit, Investment, and Risk Management Committee, which I will refer to as the FAIR Committee. The FAIR Committee assists the Board in fulfilling its oversight responsibilities for CIRA's financial reporting, audit, investment, and risk management processes. This committee supports the Board in ensuring that CIRA's budgets and financial activities are aligned with the organization's objectives, that risks are identified and managed, and that the organization has the financial resources to achieve its goals. As part of our mandate, the FAIR Committee reviews the financial performance of CIRA on a quarterly basis. We also review CIRA's proposed annual audit plan, the performance and services provided by the external auditor, the resulting audited financial statements, the independent auditor's report, and the audit findings report and management letter, if any. I am here today to share the results of the fiscal year ended March 31st, 2025, which I will refer to as FY25. Following the appointment of the auditors by members, the auditors work with CIRA management to prepare the annual audit plan for review and approval by the FAIR Committee. The financial statements have been prepared by management in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. The auditor presented the FY25 draft financial statements to the FAIR Committee with inclusion of the independent auditor's report and the management letter. The FAIR Committee recommended approval to the Board, which was followed by Board approval. A copy of the audited financial statements and the independent auditor's report can be found on our website as part of the annual report to members. I am pleased to report that our external auditors at Welsh LLP are of the opinion that our financial statements present fairly and in all material respects reflect CIRA's financial position, operational results, and changes in net assets and cash flows. Welsh's audit was completed in accordance with accounting standards of not-for-profit organizations. To keep my presentation brief, I'll speak only to some key financial and operational aspects of CIRA's business, and I encourage you to review the complete documents online. I will provide just a few highlights from CIRA's past fiscal year. First, CIRA remains in a strong financial position. We have a healthy statement of cash position with $64.1 million in total assets, of which $46.8 million is held within our restricted investments portfolio and $25 million in net assets. CIRA achieved an overall increase in revenue of 5.4% or $2.2 million over the prior year. Of its $42.6 million in overall revenue, $34 million came from the sale of .ca domains. Our core .ca domain business experienced net domains under management growth of almost 1% in FY25, outpacing the global CCTLD average of 0.3%. While the trend in global CCTLD growth has been slowing, the end of FY25 saw a marked increase in registrations, which can be primarily due to the rising Buy Canadian sentiment brought on by the current trade challenges. Our strategy to invest and diversify services continued to gain further traction in FY25. Our cyber DNS and registry revenues grew 7.4% over the previous year's $8 million, and we ended FY25 with over $8.6 million in diversified services revenues, representing 20% of CIRA's total revenue. This continued growth displays CIRA's strong strategic position in Canada's security landscape. CIRA continues to establish itself as a leader in cybersecurity defense with investment in new products and services. This was the final year of our 5-year strategic plan. We continue to focus on optimizing our financial goals and key performance indicators across all programs, services, and activities. The Net Good Grants Program is a central pillar of Net Good by CIRA, supporting projects that enhance infrastructure and online safety across Canada. In 2025, CIRA awarded $1.25 million across 15 projects, with the addition of a second year of a total $250,000 grant to support the National Capital FreeNet's Community Wi-Fi Network Pilot Project. In FY24, CIRA and SIDN, the registries of Canada's .ca and the Netherlands .nl domains, announced a new partnership to jointly develop, promote, and support the CIRA registry platform. Previously known as Fury, the platform was rebranded in FY25 as the Hello Registry. CIRA established 2 new Canadian corporations, Canada Holdco, a wholly owned CIRA subsidiary, and Fury Canada. Canada Holdco owns 50% of Fury Canada. The other 50% is owned by the SIDN Netherlands Group. In FY25, the Fury codebase and intellectual property were transferred to Fury Canada. The transaction resulted in an increase of $9.94 million in CIRA's revenue. This was achieved by the gain on sale of the Fury intellectual property transferred to Fury Canada. Canada Holdco reported a net loss of $637,000, primarily due to the tax treatment of the license transfer. This tax-related loss is not reflective of its ongoing financial position and is not expected to reoccur in future periods. It is anticipated that it will be offset in the next fiscal year. Overall, the CIRA SIDN partnership delivers a positive financial impact with strong long-term potential for the Hello Registry. I'm pleased to have offered you this high-level overview, aware that it only begins to scratch the surface. I invite you to review our full audited financial statements presented online at cira.ca. And of course, we are more than happy to answer any questions you may have with respect to the financial statements in our question period at the end. Thank you for your attention. I will now hand it back to our chair, Jill Kowalczyk, for any questions related to the financial statements.
Thanks, Colleen. We will now open the floor to questions related to the financial statements. We have a total of 7 minutes for the question period. Bridget will alert us when time's been reached. If any members have specific questions, please click the raise hand as we've done before. We do have 30 seconds to ask questions. The timer will go up when we're unsure your mic is working. I will give a little leeway. 30 seconds has seemed to be a little bit short. I will give a little leeway, but please try to be as concise as possible. And the other piece I'll just note is please really focus on the question when you ask it. Okay, first up, we have Michael O'Neill. Michael.
Thanks. Byron explained that the fair market value of CIRA IP was set at $9.94 million, and that SIDN paid half of this to CIRA in cash. I don't see this payment, equivalent to roughly 10% of revenue, identified in the report. What I do see is a $9.94 million other income entry, which doesn't recognize the fact that Holdco owns half of Fury, meaning that 50% of this $9.94 million would be owed by CIRA to itself. So my question is, doesn't this overstate the value of the gain on sale of Fury IP registry platform by 50% or $4.97 million?
Michael, we got the whole first part of what you had stated about the first 30 seconds, and then it broke up. It didn't seem like it was an audio issue, but maybe more of a network type issue. Byron, did you get the question, or would you like me to have Michael repeat at least the second part?
I think it would be helpful, given how clipped
Yeah.
it was, Michael, if you could just repeat like the last 20 seconds. I mean, I think the essence of what you were getting at was, did we overstate the transaction value by half, is roughly what I heard, but it would be very helpful if you restated the last half of your question.
Yes, we'll give you back the
Thanks,
floor.
Byron.
We're pausing the question period so we make sure we have enough time. Sorry about that.
Thanks. No, probably my fault. And thanks, Byron. You interpreted it correctly. I don't see a reflection of the payment from SIDN noted in the auditor's report, and it seems like because CIRA owns half of Fury through Holdco, that the $9.94 million, which is credited in whole as other income, is overstated by half. Yeah, so that would be my question: is this in fact how does this all net out to actually reflect a gain of $9.94 million in a year where we were told in the last presentation revenue actually increased by 2.2 million?
Thanks, Michael. It was perfectly clear that time, so we appreciate it. All right, Byron, I'll pass it to you, and feel free to bring in others from the team as needed.
Yeah, I'm going to get Jane, who leads our finance team, to dig into that for you. Jane?
Certainly. Thank you, Michael. There's a number of, I'll call it, moving parts here. So the $9.94 million is the total valuation of the IP. And because CIRA transferred 100% of that, it's 100% gain, which is in our other income. When we think about the cash that was transferred, half of that in cash from SIDN, it is sitting in our investment portfolio. So a number of differences there. So trying to stress that it's 100% of the IP. So that is a gain of the entire amount, and the cash is actually in our investment portfolio. So you're not seeing those elements in revenue or cash per se.
Thanks, Jane. Okay, next up in the queue, we have David Michaels. David, the floor is yours.
Hi. My question is about the increase in expenses and computer operations and consulting fees, yet our marketing and communications expenses have gone down 30%. How is that helping to increase the number of .ca registrants? We don't necessarily need to increase the number of registrations, but the number of registrants. I myself have dropped about 4,000 domain names in the last year because it's unsustainable to support these increasing costs for renewals. The sales are not there. People are not buying anymore. They're not building their own websites. Why are we putting $4.3 million into community investment? That doesn't help anybody.
Byron, I'm going to pass it to you, and you can call on members of the team. Good question.
There was a few questions in there, so I'm just trying to parse the questions that I could answer. I mean, I guess starting with the last one first, our community investment program, or what we refer to more commonly as our Net Good program, comprises a number of things. One is the granting program, which we spoke about earlier, but there are a number of other elements that, add to the grants program, which are for the good of the Canadian internet. So we do an internet performance test, for example, Canadian Shield, which we make available to all individual Canadians. Those are all part of our, what we used to call community investment program, but now call Net Good program. And I take your point, but it is a judgment call that the organization makes, that part of what we do and part of our purpose, which we speak about regularly, is to help build a trusted internet in Canada. And some of that is around data, understanding the performance of the internet in Canada. Some of it is around actually protecting people and organizations like Canadian Shield does. And those are activities that we engage in above and beyond strictly the management of .ca domain names. Now, that's something we've been at for quite some time, that we have a lot of support for overall, certainly from the board, from the organization, but also very much from members, government, and registrants. To the earlier question about registrants versus domain names, and that's a very interesting one. Clearly, you're in the business of domain names, because most people won't catch that. Registrants are people or entities that acquire domain names versus actual registrations, which is the number of domain names. And those things aren't one-to-one. In fact, on average, it's about 1.7 domains per registrant. That number has stayed relatively fixed over a long period of time. So there are some ebbs and flows, and we do think about how do we get more registrants buying .ca domain names, as well as making sure that we put as many .ca domain names into the marketplace as possible. So we do think about both things.
I know there was kind of two questions, but I'm going to cut you off there, Byron. Thanks for that. Great question. We have Michael O'Neill again. Michael, floor is yours.
Thanks. Jane, just to quickly follow up, CIRA transferred an asset worth about $10 million to a third party, and now owns half of that third party after receiving partner payment of about $5 million. How does it result in a $10 million gain without some negative entry reflecting the value of the transfer of the asset from CIRA in the first place?
So the actual asset is the 100%, Michael, and it was that the actual build of that IP had been expensed. So the actual transfer is the entirety of that amount that's considered the gain on the sale because it's 100% of the IP that we transferred. So the transfer went from CIRA, which had expensed that valuation at the time of the IP build of Fury registry at the time, and it's 100% of that amount because it's 100% of the IP.
Thanks, Jane. Next up, I have William Stratus. William, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello again. Could you please inform us what's the head count, full-time and part-time, that corresponds to the payroll?
Yes,
Sure.
approximately.
I mean, it depends day to day, but it would be roughly 130 people, plus or minus a handful, on any given day.
Thanks, Byron.
Madam Chair, we have reached our time limit for the question period.
Okay, thanks, Bridget. I didn't see any other hands up in the queue. Thanks for the thoughtful questions on this portion of the meeting. As we have no more questions for this matter, I declare that the financial statements and the auditor's report thereon have been presented and received. We will now be presenting a motion for the reappointment of CIRA's auditor, Welch LLP has agreed to serve as CIRA's auditor until the next annual general meeting. Before I invite questions or discussion, could I please have a member move the motion to reappoint Welch LLP as CIRA's auditor by clicking the raise hand button?
Matthew Gamble is recorded as having moved the motion to reappoint Welch LLP as CIRA's auditor.
Thank you. Will a member please second the motion?
Bill Sanderford is recorded as having seconded the motion to reappoint Welch LLP as CIRA's auditor.
We will now open the floor for questions specifically related to the motion to appoint the auditors. If you have a question, as we've done before, please raise your hand to get in the queue. We will try to keep it to 30 seconds for the question, but I've given some latitude as required. And overall, we have 7 minutes. Again, I've given some flexibility if needed. Bridget will help me out and alert us when we have any time. When we've reached time. James Epp, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. Feeling a little sheepish to raise my voice now, but I mostly promise this will be the second last comment I have for today. My question is to the auditor. Can you confirm your independence in your work and highlight any consulting work or any other work that your firm did for CIRA and its associated organizations, that being the holding companies, in the past 24 months ending fiscal year 25? If your firm did such work, can you declare that value and what the work entailed? Thank you.
Thanks, James. I will pass the floor over to Bryden. Bryden, the floor is yours.
Hi, thanks for the question, James. Very easy answer in this case. We've done no consulting work in the past 24 months related to CIRA and or the transaction. So the only things we've done in the past 24 months is the audit related to the CIRA organization itself. And that's it. So the answer is $0 outside of the audit. Thank you.
Thanks, Bryden. And apologies to all of our remote guests so we can see the weird flickering on the audio. Technology, video. Audio was perfect. Sorry about that. Any other questions? Seeing no more questions, I'll now proceed to the comments from members, similar to the process we followed before. If you have a comment, please click the raise hand button to get in the queue. You'll have a minute to speak, and we'll have a total of 7 minutes for the comment period. Bridget will alert us if any time has been reached. We have a hand raised from Ifosa Ohenhem. The floor is yours.
Good day, everyone. I don't know if you can hear me.
Can hear you. You're a little bit quiet. If you could just maybe speak up a bit. Go ahead.
All right. Good afternoon. This is Efosa from Winnipeg, Manitoba. My comment is not related to the matter at hand, but I think why we lost that vote for comment section is because of the time frame. And I think going forward in the future, we should have like an idea, because this is my first time, of how long the meeting would be, because some of us had to take a break from our daily work. And, so we just have a better understanding of. Yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you for your comment. Noted. And apologies, we accidentally put the 30-second timer up rather than the minute, but Deanna extended it on the fly. Thanks for that comment. Any other comments? Tawhid Elahi, you have the floor for a minute.
All right. No, I just was going through the Welch's LLP website, and my only comment about it is that as someone who doesn't really interact with legal services much, it looks like a good website. I don't really have much else to add, but that's it. Thank you.
Any other questions? Comments, sorry. Comments. Okay, we will now proceed with voting on the motion, which reads, be it resolved that Welch LLP be reappointed as CIRA's auditor to hold office until the close of the next annual general meeting, or until their successors are duly appointed, and that the board of directors be authorized to establish the remuneration of the auditor. You will see the motion appear on your screen. Simply click on your selection. Your vote will automatically be registered. Please vote now. Please bear with us while we wait for the results from the motion.
The motion received 127 votes in favor, 2 votes against, and 6 abstentions.
The motion is carried. Welch LLP will serve as CIRA's auditor until the next annual general meeting. Thank you, Jane and Colleen. We will now present the motion for the confirmation of the bylaw amendments made by the board. Before I pass the floor to Bridget for a few comments, I will just note our goal was to keep the AGM portion to an hour. We have this matter of business. Depending on questions and discussion on it, I expect we'll go a little bit past the hour, but we'll do our best. And then once we close the meeting, I will open it back up for a couple of other questions because I saw Marita still had her hand up. Okay, Bridget, over to you.
Thank you, Jill. An organization bylaw sets out the broad rules for governing the corporation. CIRA's bylaw number 1, which I call the bylaw, was last amended in September 2022 and is regularly reviewed to ensure that it serves the needs of the organization and aligns with good corporate governance principles. Earlier this year, CIRA's Governance Committee conducted a review of the bylaw with input from internal and external legal counsel. Based on this review, it was determined that certain changes should be made to the bylaw to improve organizational processes and efficiencies. The proposed changes to CIRA's bylaw were included in the materials posted on CIRA's website. The board approved the amendments to the bylaw on June 3rd, 2025, and members are now being asked to confirm these proposed bylaw changes. If confirmed, the amendments will take effect on October 2nd, 2025, such that the 2025 election process will remain unchanged by the proposed amendments. I will now turn it back to Jill to describe the amendments in greater detail.
There are 4 main changes being made to CIRA's bylaw. I will walk through each of the changes, show the relevant provision in the bylaw with the change on the slides, and explain the rationale for each of the changes. The first change is in the definition section where annual general meeting has been added as a defined term. While the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act refers to the annual meeting as the annual meeting of the members, CIRA has historically and consistently referred to this meeting as its annual general meeting, or AGM. The addition of annual general meeting in the definition section references that this means an annual meeting of the members within the meaning of the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act. This will allow CIRA to continue to refer to its annual member meeting as its annual general meeting, or AGM. The second change relates to making it a requirement for directors to be CIRA members. This is reflected in section 3.03A, which specifies that each director should be a member of the corporation. You will also see that the previous section, 3.03D, which specified that directors need not be members of the corporation, has been deleted. Finally, you will see that section 3.07DV has been added, which specifies that an individual who is a director will immediately cease to be a director if they are no longer a CIRA member. We would note that attendance at CIRA's AGM is limited to CIRA's members, where guests are not permitted. This change ensures that directors are able to attend CIRA's AGM. It also reflects the importance that CIRA places on its members. Directors are not only elected by the members, but should be required to be members themselves. The third change relates to the timing of CIRA's Board of Directors election. The Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act provides that directors are elected by the members at each annual general meeting. Under CIRA's current election process, the election starts at the AGM and ends 7 days afterwards, which leads to a peculiar situation where the election continues even after the AGM has concluded. With these bylaw amendments to section 3.04E, the board election would start 7 days prior to the AGM and end at the actual AGM. It is the board's view that this change is more consistent with the spirit of the Canada Not-for-Profit Corporations Act and director elections in general. Note that it is only the timing of the election that is changing. Members would still have 7 days to cast their vote for their preferred candidate. Furthermore, given that the election would be starting 7 days earlier, certain stages in CIRA's election process would also shift to be earlier. If confirmed by the members, this amendment would come into effect after the completion of this year's CIRA 2025 Board of Directors election. For clarity, the timing of this year's Board Directors election remain unchanged. I will also note a minor typographical error in the definition section for the definition of election period. It references section 3.04D when it should be 3.04E. This will be corrected in the final version of the bylaw confirmed by members. Thanks to James for pointing this out in advance. To be clear, when you are voting on CIRA's amended and restated bylaw number 1 today, you will be voting on the bylaw with this correction. The final change is to delete the grandfather clause related to director term limits. Director term limits were added to CIRA's bylaw in 2016 in section 3.06B, setting out a term limit of 9 consecutive years. At the time, a grandfather clause was also added in section 3.06C, providing that in determining the length of service of a director for the purposes of term limits, service prior to the coming into force of this section would be excluded. As more than 9 years has elapsed since the enactment of this clause, it is no longer applicable and as such has been deleted from CIRA's bylaw. Before I invite questions or discussion, could I please have a member move the motion to confirm CIRA's amended and restated bylaw number 1 by clicking the raise hand button?
James Epp is recorded as having moved the motion to confirm CIRA's amended and restated bylaw number 1.
Will a member please second the motion?
Bill Sandiford is recorded as having seconded the motion to confirm CIRA's amended and restated bylaw number 1.
We will now open the floor to questions related to the motion to confirm CIRA's amended and restated bylaw number 1. If you have a question, I'll just note if you put your hand up to second the motion and you didn't lower it, now would be the time to lower it. If you have a question, please click the raise hand button to get in the queue. You will have 30 seconds to ask your question, although as with previous, a little bit of leeway as needed. Please try to be concise. We will have a total of 7 minutes for the question period, and Bridget will alert us when any time limit has been reached. Matthew Gamble, you have a question. The floor is yours.
I do not. I forgot to lower my hand.
Had a feeling. Okay. Tawhid Elahi, you have a question.
Yes, so my question is about the voting period. When voting, does the Act request that the voting happen like in the AGM or at the same time, but like through a different like process? Like, you know, we click a link and we vote the same time that we're attending the AGM. I think the wording is a bit vague there.
Yeah, great question. Bridget, are you comfortable taking this one?
Sure. So the Act does not prescribe that director elections have to happen at the AGM. And so this change from having the director election period from what it is right now, which is that it follows the AGM, and moving that to happen before the AGM is permissible under the Act.
Thanks. Next up, we have James Epp. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair. In spite of the concern/question I'm about to raise, I support the changes. I think they're good sense. My question to give the chair an opportunity to respond to it. Is there any concern from CIRA with respect to the timing of the cutoff of the electoral roll when it comes to section 14.04 of bylaw 1? And does CIRA intend to come forward with changes either presented to the membership or taken as friendly to correct to maintain the status quo in the electoral roll cutoff? Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, James. A great question. So, and I'll just, for full transparency, you brought this forward earlier, and one of the things that we will do is take your thoughts and consideration on this and make sure we give it due consideration. We spend quite a bit of time in advance of proposing changes to the bylaw. We get expert thoughts and opinion. We review our bylaws as well as the Canada Not-for-Profit Act and work towards making sure we have looked at each angle. So we will take this one offline and check it. From my perspective, I don't see any issue with the current date. It does, based on the advice that I've gotten from Bridget and others, fit within what the Corporations Act states. It really is just specifying the date by which you have to be a member so that you can vote or attend the AGM. And it is that 21 days before, which is required. I believe the Act sets out a range. And so the advantage of the way it is set now, based on my understanding of it, is it gives maximum time for individuals who are able to be members to register a member and then ultimately register their vote. That being said, given the feedback you provided, I am going to ask the Governance Committee to take a look at this and make sure we give it thoughtful consideration. If necessary, next year we will bring back some additional amendments to the bylaws if required. Are there any additional questions on the motion at hand? Okay, seeing no more questions, we'll go to the comments from members. If you have a comment, as we've done before, please click the raise hand button to get in the queue. You'll have a minute to speak, and we'll have a total of 7 minutes for the comment period. Bridget will alert us when the time has been reached. Marita, the floor is yours.
Hello. Yeah. I want to support certainly the last part of it that says the election ends at the AGM. I found it to be far too long between the forum and the AGM period. People kind of lose momentum on the excitement of an election. So I think this is a great change if it goes through. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks for your comment, Marita. Are there any additional comments? Seeing no additional comments, we will now proceed to voting on the motion, which reads, be it resolved that CIRA's members hereby confirm the amended and restated CIRA Bylaw Number 1, dated October 2nd, 2025, as presented on September 24th, 2025, and approved by the board on June 3rd, 2025, and including a corrected cross-reference in the definition of election period to Section 3.04E. You will see the motion appear on your screen. Simply click on your selection and your vote will automatically be registered. Please vote now. The vote is closed. Bear with us while we wait for the results on stage.
The motion received 122 votes in favor, 2 votes against, and 10 abstentions.
The motion is carried. CIRA's amended and restated Bylaw Number 1, dated October 2nd, 2025, is now confirmed. Thank you to our members for their continued engagement. It is now time to close the meeting. A motion to conclude the meeting is now in order. As mentioned earlier, we will stick around to answer some additional questions after we close the meeting as we have them. Could I please have, before we do that though, sorry I messed it, could I please have someone move the motion to conclude the meeting?
Robert Hall is recorded as having moved the motion to close the meeting.
Thank you. Will a member please second the motion?
Heather Maga is recorded as having seconded the motion to close the meeting.
Thank you. We will now proceed with a vote to close the meeting. You will see the motion appear on your screen. Simply click on your selection and your vote will automatically be registered. Please vote now. So while we're voting, I will note, so we will allow, I know Marita had her hand up at the last question period at the start, so I want to make sure I give a chance for Marita to ask her additional question if she has one, and anyone else. If the queue does end up being a little bit long, we might have to take a quick break for those of us on stage, but we'll come back. Try to give a good balance of hearing from people and moving things along. Okay, the time period for the motion, I believe, has closed. We'll just need to wait a few seconds for the results on stage.
The motion received 121 votes in favor, 2 votes against, and 3 abstentions.
Thanks. The motion is carried. The 2025 CIRA AGM is now concluded. With that, we'll just take a couple of minutes and see if our members had any additional questions. Marita, thanks for putting your hand up. The floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks for taking this question. It's really about the process. I am really missing the chat function that we usually get with Zoom. I realize that maybe you can't do that during the formal part of the AGM, or maybe you can, or at least you could have it in there for the question periods. But it just allows so many more people to engage who don't really want to take the floor. So I was kind of missing that. Wondering why you chose that, and if you would bring it back even partially. Thank you.
Thanks, Marita. I'll respond on that one. We did, as you know, drop the chat a few years ago. It was done for a couple of reasons. One was to keep it in line with we moved, as I stated earlier, we chose to move this to the more traditional corporate format for an AGM, and in most of those that isn't something that is provided. We also had challenges. While it does provide more opportunity for more people to contribute, I completely agree with that. I see that in my day job. Sometimes it's helpful if people voice their concern and can see that the person on the other end. So it's just a fine balance that we had in that. That being said, as noted, we really like to give and receive feedback. So it's certainly something we can take offline and consider, particularly in what you noted on the maybe not in the formal AGM. Maybe it's something we consider in a more general Q&A. So we'll take that offline and have a conversation and figure it out for next year. Caleb Ogondel, your hand is up. You've got the floor.
All right, thanks. So speaking of members' engagement, it's just a suggestion that perhaps outside the AGM, outside the members meet the candidate engagement forum, and a pocket of few CIRA organized meetings here and there to meet with a registrant and registrars. And perhaps we might have like a bigger forum where members can engage more. I believe that if that happens, it will reduce the amount of questions we get. The amount of questions you get at the AGM, perhaps some of those questions might be answered with just a few physical engagement. Perhaps if there's a mailing list where they can continue to, exchange banters over certain issues and all of that. So it's just a suggestion for more increased members' engagement outside this forum that we have. Thanks.
Thanks so much, Caleb. That is a great suggestion, and certainly something that we've been tossing around both at the board and with management. So great suggestion. We'll continue our conversation on that and work towards changes in the future. And other things we're interested, like I said previously, complete the AGM feedback, put your comments and thoughts in the AGM feedback survey and form. If you have new and creative ways and ideas and suggestions for member engagement, we're excited to hear it. Tawhid Alahi, the floor is yours.
Okay, awesome. I just had a question about kind of the new .ca registrations, as was noted before. It's the assumption is that because of increased Canadian nationalist sentiment due to the election of Donald Trump. So personally, I started using my .ca domain recently, even though I bought it like years ago because of it. And I think part of the reason was twofold. One, there was a rumor going around that the price cap on the .com domain was going to be removed. So is .ca is the .ca domain prices, are they going to be held steady, or is it going to change drastically? And yeah, that's my question.
Thanks for the question. Byron, are you good to answer this one?
Sure. Thanks for the question. We take a look at the overall market and the relative pricing of .ca to ensure that we're always competitive or ideally below other TLDs. And just for frame of reference, right now I think a .com at the wholesale level is just over $14, $14.50 Canadian dollars. Whereas .ca is $10.50, so we're well under that at this point. .org is roughly the same as .com, and when we look at our CCTLD peers around Europe, which are mainly, what I would call the legacy CCTLD operators, of which we would be one, typically they're about $11.50, $12 Canadian. So compared to all of the other top-level domain names that Canadians might use, we are better priced than all of those competitors, and it's certainly our goal to continue to be so into the future. And every couple of years we review it. Thanks.
Thanks, Byron. I don't see any other hands up. One more. Okay, James, we'll let you have the last question, and then we'll need to break.
Oh, that's a shame. I don't want that. But before break, sure. Probably I include myself in this comment. I think a lot of people have past, current, people in the future will have misconceptions about what is CIRA and what is the .ca domain and what's the ownership and the governance structure. Maybe just for everyone in the class, can you give a brief description as to, like, here's where, a mommy and daddy come together and they make a CCTLD, who actually names the CCTLD and gives authority to who's gonna be the guardians of that CCTLD, and then who's actually gonna operate it. Just explain that for everyone. I think everyone would benefit from it.
Great question, James. I am going to have Byron answer. I can give an answer, but it's not going to be as good as the person who lives, eats, and breathes this on a daily basis. Byron, over to you.
Thanks, James. That's sort of the topic matter that I love to talk about, because part of it is just pure internet governance and where did all of these TLDs kind of climb out of the internet primordial soup. I don't know, but I suspect you might be interested in taking a look at RFC 1591, which talks about the origin story of how CCTLDs in particular are delegated. Of course, there's two very different things. One is GTLDs, which are generic top-level domains, which are anything that has 3 digits to the right of the dot, like .com, for example, or .hockey. .music would all be GTLDs, and anything with 2-digit country codes, which are off of the ISO country code list, represent a country or territory, like .ca, of course. Every country gets a CCTLD, and those were delegated originally in a relatively informal way, and John Demko in Canada originally received the delegation of authority to operate .ca back in the late 80s, 87. 87. That origin story is fairly common across the legacy CCTLD operators, and it is very much a defined structure by which the internet overall works. And to a great degree, especially on the generic side, the rules of the road on how generic TLDs come into creation are governed by ICANN. And there's a very defined set of processes that allow a new GATLD to come into existence. And CCTLDs tend to be overall more stable. They're tied to a country. They've been around for all time. And there's very specific rules about how they can come and go depending on countries themselves coming into existence. We all have slightly different rules in the CCTLD space in terms of how they're governed, whether they're not-for-profits, whether they're in a creature of government themselves, sometimes out of, still housed in academic institutions. But CIRA is a private, not-for-profit corporation.
Thanks, Byron. The conversation's so good, and it is about our core business at hand, so I will allow for a couple more questions from the floor. Robert Hall, over to you.
Hi, I'm Robert Hall. I want to answer that question in a more fulsome way, perhaps. John Demko and myself and a gentleman named Bernie Turcotte and Kim Holland with the Government of Canada created CIRA. We were the founders of it in 1998 or 1999. We wanted to create a nonprofit corporation for Canadians, run by Canadians, to govern the .ca domain. John had been doing it as a labor of love for many years. And we wanted to get it into something that was this structure. And I think it is a testament to what we did back then is what you're seeing today. You're seeing 20 years on, a board of directors, a governance structure. It's fully functional. It's run by Canadians, for Canadians. And I want to congratulate the board on a well-run AGM today as well. So James, I hope that answers your question, but CIRA is about Canadians, for Canadians, by Canadians, and it governs the .ca, and there's no profit involved in CIRA. It's a non-profit corporation. So that structure was decided on back in the 90s and set up and continues today. And I'm proud of it. I'm proud of the work John did and we all did on setting this up. I had the pleasure of being the first chairman of the board of CIRA. And so, it's great to see that it's still flourishing, and I congratulate the current board on a job well done and stewarding this forward in the next year. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Appreciate your additional comments on it. I always like to hear about the history of CIRA, so appreciate the added context. William Stratus, you have the floor.
Yes, this is for Byron, who will know that I've asked this question in the past. Could you give us any inside scoop of what's happening at ICANN currently, and specifically, is the new United States administration showing its hand in any way with ICANN? Thank you.
Byron.
Thanks for the question, William. I always look forward to you joining the AGMs and asking that specific question. And you asked a very specific question about the U.S. government involvement in ICANN. As you and many will remember who paid attention to this space before, in 2016, the U.S. government relinquished its oversight control of some of the specific functions of the critical internet resources that are overseen by ICANN. And ICANN itself since then has been really a self-governing organization made up of different kinds of constituency groups, of which country codes would be one of those constituency groups. The generic TLD operators are part of another constituency group. There's civil society. And then governments in general also form part of the constituency group. I would say, given that back in that time period, 2014 to 2016, when we all in this community started to come up with how would we govern ICANN in a post-US oversight world, it's actually gone, I would argue, pretty well. ICANN is far from perfect, but the overall governance of it has gone relatively well. And the governments in general, through the Governmental Advisory Committee, the GAC, continue to have feedback and input into how ICANN should treat public policy interests that governments have. The US government, to my knowledge, has not per se meddled in ICANN, but I think it's safe to say that it behooves ICANN to pay close attention to where the current US government casts its eye. And right now, things seem to be going well, but as we all see here, I mean, the environment can change quickly. But definitely ICANN is paying attention, close attention.
Thanks, Byron, and thanks for that question. I am just debating in my head whether we close it or add additional questions. I see Caleb did put his hand up. I do want to say I've really enjoyed this year's AGM and the questions that we have had across the whole period. So both our pre-questions as well as what we had during the business at hand. And so I am reticent to cut it off. So we'll keep going for a little bit more. Maybe I'll make the time cap 3:30 Eastern time, so we'll have about 9 more minutes if we still have questions, and then that will be my hard cap on it. In part because I need a break, so apologies. Okay, Caleb, over to you.
All right. Thank you. So I think my question is to Byron. I see CIRA has been playing a lot of role in the WSIS process. The zero draft is out, and I did see the comments that you made. I just wanted to ask, what will be the continuous leadership role that you're playing in CIRA that will continue in the WSIS process? Like, how do you see that the WSIS process is going to be renewed, and CIRA will continue to play a very significant role in that internet governance space as well?
Thanks, Caleb. So just for folks who maybe aren't paying as close attention to internet governance issues as Caleb does, right now there is an important process based out of the UN called the WSIS, World Summit on the Information Society, plus 20. So meaning the original one happened 20 years ago, and we are now at the 20th anniversary. And governments in particular, based out of the structure of the UN, are looking at the potential to update some of the rules, procedures, policies that were articulated in how the internet should be governed overall, with a particular perspective on how governments interact with the governance of the internet globally. And it's been a very contested space. Clearly, internet governance has evolved a lot since the origin of public internet, or at least very early days when WSIS was first coming to be. And in this most recent iteration, which has taken place over the course of this calendar year, there have been a lot of different activities, conferences, milestones, inputs, et cetera, that different communities have made. And CIRA has been very involved in that across all of the spaces and places, along with a number of our colleagues in the CCTLD and registrar and registry space. And part of that is we helped found an organization that is now 40 members strong of technical operators across this space, registries, registrars, TLDs, and others, to make sure that our voices are heard as the operators of this infrastructure into this global WSIS internet governance space. And the short answer is, Caleb, we will continue to be very interested. I said it before, I strongly believe it, those who can, should. CIRA is in a very fortunate position that we have the expertise, the insights, and the resources to be able to pay attention to these critical spaces and to provide inputs to help ensure a free, interconnected, global, and secure internet. So we will continue to play a meaningful role in that space. Thanks for the question.
Thanks, Byron. Rosemary Helmer, you have the floor.
Hello, can you hear me?
Can hear you. Yeah, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Right. My name's Rosemary Helmer. I'm from Mississauga, Ontario, and I have a number of .ca domains, which I have acquired through time for various purposes, and some I have plans for, others I haven't used yet. But I was surprised to learn in the preamble to the meeting that demand for domains has slowed in Canada. Given the current aspirations of Canada to be a more uniform country trading amongst itself and reaching out to other global partners, I'm wondering what role CIRA can play to help domain holders to actively make use of their domains, not simply to hold them and maybe secure them for investment purposes and later sell them. Some years ago, I ran for the board. I wasn't elected at the time. That's fine. I have no issue with that. But I'm wondering, as a marketer, is there more we could be doing to promote how you develop your brand through your .ca domain, and how do you set it up effectively to make it secure? I think a lot of people get the domain and then they're not quite sure how to go about the website process and all the securities with things evolving so significantly. So my question is, what could CRA be doing to help stimulate the usage of our .cas and involve collaboration with .ca owners that actually use them, and perhaps give some examples of here's how we're using ours? I'm sure there are a lot of new aspirants who would like some guidance. What are your thoughts on that?
Great question, Rosemary. I'm actually going to pass this one on to Adam Eisner from CIRA. Adam, give us your title, because I can't remember it on the fly, and I think he's well positioned to answer this. Adam, over to you.
Sure, thank you. Hi, Rosemary. My name's Adam Eisner. I'm the VP of .ca and Registry Services here at CIRA. And you ask a really good question, and a few thoughts. I think certainly how internet usage is changing and therefore domain names are being used is something we think about a lot at CIRA. We actually do use some technology even in-house to identify how websites and how domain names are being used within the .ca zone. And so it's really important to us to make sure that usage continues to increase. And so we are thinking of a number of ways, both watching how people use domain names today versus, say, 10 years ago, and working with our channel of domain registrars to really think through different ways to bring awareness to good uses for domain names. And so it is a discussion that is always happening inside of our group. And we continue to keep a very close eye on what domain name usage trends are so that we can help users think through the best ways to take advantage of their .ca domain name.
Awesome. Thanks, Adam, and great question. Really appreciate it. With that, I am going to call this to a close. I really appreciate the thoughtful questions that we had throughout the AGM. We'll take all of the feedback we heard, as well as any additional feedback we get through the survey that we put out and others. I did see there was a couple other questions. I cut off, my apologies there. But hopefully we can work towards other ways in which we can continue the engaging conversation with members. So with that, I'll ask Lumi to close. Thanks again for joining us.